Welcome back, this is part 15 of What Happened to the Alien and Predator series. This episode was brought to you by shouting through laryngitis, where screaming, coughing and spluttering for 2 hours only results in 5 minutes worth of usable audio. Prometheus ended on a cliffhanger. After 2 hours of setting up mysteries, establishing character motivations, twisting the established lore of the alien universe on its head, and some other sequences that just flat out didn't make any sense, the movie suddenly ended with a cliffhanger that promised all the answers would be revealed in the sequel. And I really don't like the idea of ending a movie with the promise of fixing it up later in a sequel, because not only does it result in an unsatisfying story for the first film, but it also places an unfair burden on the sequels. It's hard enough to just write a good script for a movie under normal circumstances, but in order for Alien Covenant to be a good movie, it not only has to have a good story in its own right, with well fleshed out characters and a motivating plot, but it also has to retroactively backfill plot details from the last movie. It has to answer questions left over from Prometheus, but somehow do it using characters who weren't actually there for the last movie, and therefore wouldn't know to ask those questions in the first place. Prometheus ended with 4 main questions still left in the air. Sure, there were a bunch of other questions, but I think the 4 most important questions the sequel needed to answer were: 1. What happened to David and Shaw at the end of Prometheus when they flew away to the engineer homeworld? Did they get there? What happened when they got there? And was it really their homeworld after all? 2. Why did the engineers decide to destroy humanity after they created it? I can buy that the engineers were creating humanity to honour their god, as implied by the big head shrine in the black goo room in Prometheus, but why did they change their minds? And why does the goo sometimes create life, but other times kill it? 3. What's the relation between the black goo and the alien species? The goo creates creatures that are obviously similar to the alien, but they're not the alien. And there's an altar with what looks like an alien and a queen in the black goo room as well, implying that there is a connection between the two. Plus there's some green crystal too, which I still have no idea what the hell that is. And 4. How does this story fit into the larger Alien universe? The first Alien had a derelict ship full of alien eggs, which the company somehow knew about with Ash and Special Order 937, and yet the company somehow doesn't know about the planet right next to LV-426, which is covered with engineer ships full of black goo canisters. So how do we get from Prometheus to here? How do those puzzle pieces fit together? Alien Covenant really only answers 2 of those questions, and even then it only clearly answers the question of what happened to David and Shaw, while it hints at the answer of the relation between the goo and the alien. But I'll get to that, so let's back up a bit and say what Alien Covenant's about. Alien Covenant follows the crew of the ship The Covenant, who are on a mission to start a new human colony on a remote planet on the far side of the galaxy. But on the way there, they intercept a radio signal made by Shaw, which leads them to the paradisal engineer homeworld. But something terrible has happened. The engineer civilization is in ruin, with David being the only soul left. Alien Covenant gets the most important thing right, which is that I really like these characters. It's not like the first Alien film, which had an improvised quality to its dialogue that made the characters feel like real people, and there's no major standouts like Ellen Ripley. But you do get to understand these people and know what their motivations are. There's time spent on little character moments where the crew bounce off each other, and you get to know their personalities. Characters like the Captain Oram, who is stuttering and ineffectual, but placed in command when he doesn't feel up to it, and he accuses the other characters of not respecting him because he's religious. But as far as I can tell, none of the other crew members actually seem to mind about his faith, so it's really just him voicing his own insecurities. He even seems to only agree to abort their current mission and follow Shaw's signal because he thinks it'll make the other characters like him. Like, that's great! It's moments like that which made those first 2 Alien movies so great. It's the interaction between characters that we care about. Not like AVP, which had characters that bored me to death, or AVPR, which I swear was actually trying to make me hate the characters as much as possible. But when it comes to the characters, it's David who steals the show again. We saw hints in Prometheus that, unlike the rest of the crew, David already knew who his creator was, but he hated him. And so in this movie, David thinks that he can do better and make life of his own. As a robot, he already views himself as being a step up in evolution from humanity, and now he wants to create the next step. See, David has been genetically tampering with the black goo in an effort to create life of his own, and he's wiped out all the life on the engineered homeworld in his experiments, which has resulted in these mutant hybrids. And it's implied that in his messing about with the black goo, he's actually created the alien as we know it. So that explains the connection between the goo and the alien. But hang on, wasn't there that altar in Prometheus that had the queen and the alien on it? Wasn't that before David did all... Oh, fuck it, I don't know. This all continues the themes of creation and destruction that were set up in Prometheus. A colony mission is sent out to create a new home for humanity. All the crew members are married couples looking forward to creating homes and being parents. The engineers are the creators of humanity, with comparisons to gods and Valhalla. But then David creates the alien, and all those things get broken apart. David's twisted perversion of creation ties into the original alien's rape metaphor well. In fact, there's some pretty blatant sex and rape imagery in this movie, and some gruesome body horror to boot. Which, as gross as it sounds, as a fan of the first Alien, I see both of these as welcome returns to the series. And speaking of imagery, the visuals in this movie are gorgeous. Director Ridley Scott has always had an eye. Even his bad movies have at least looked good. And here, he's in full form. The visuals go back not just to H.R. Giger and Ron Cobb, but that surreal, weird Mobius comic design that influenced the first Alien as well. The visuals seem to meet halfway between the futuristic Prometheus and the retro Alien, which is a fair enough compromise, though I'm still holding out for a movie that goes full on 70s like Alien Isolation did. And most of the sets, suits, vehicles and the blood and gore effects are all practical, with CG appropriately being used to enhance the environments. But if I have a complaint, it's that most of the creature effects in the movie are CGI. And, most of the effects are pretty good CGI. But aside from dead bodies and the occasional throwaway shot, it's all CGI aliens from start to finish. Set reports from the film talked about having practical creatures, but they either didn't use them, or they pulled a Thing prequel on us and CGI'd over them. Which is really a shame. I mean, like or dislike The Force Awakens, the way that movie used mostly practical creatures was great, and it's proof that you can still use them in a big Hollywood movie. I mean, look at that little fucking robot horse thing with the little bloke on his back, or whatever he is. Look at him, he's awesome! Oh, look at him go, you beauty! Oh, it's great! Oh, that's beautiful! Go, son! But my main problem with the movie is that the third act kind of falls apart by de-evolving into action schlock. This is meant to be a horror movie, right? But when you've got scenes like the android Walter getting into a kung fu fight with David, or a scene where a character dangles on a rope outside a spaceship while shooting at an alien, and then uses the claw from Toy Story to crush one of the aliens, or a scene of the alien coming up behind a couple making out in the shower like it thinks it's bloody Jason Voorhees or something, that kind of thing to me isn't scary. It's camp. It's schlock. Scary to me is the alien stalking Dallas in the air vents, or cornering a terrified Lambert while Parker is helpless to save her, or taking a child away moments before Ripley can get to her. That's scary. Dangling on a rope shooting an alien with a shotgun like your bloody Chuck Norris is just cringy. And this action schlock seems to distract the characters from the bigger questions, like how none of them seem to be too bothered by the fact that they're standing in the ruins of an alien civilization. None of them try to get David to explain what happened until it was too late. Plus, the idiots in this movie still don't know to wear spacesuits when on alien planets. That's a minor nitpick, but come on, it's happened twice now. And the movie again ends on a cliffhanger, although thankfully this time it doesn't feel like sequel bait so much as it was just a twist ending. But I guess we're still gonna need another movie to answer the questions left over by Prometheus. But will they actually do it, or are they just gonna tease us more? But overall, I quite liked Alien Covenant. No, it's not as good as the original trilogy, but what are you kidding? Of course it beats the crap out of Alien Resurrection and the AVP movies, and it's better than Prometheus too. In a lot of ways, it even feels like a do-over of Prometheus, covering the same ideas but in a more satisfying way. It's proof that this series still has legs after all these years, and that in space still nobody can hear you scream.